So can you tell us a little bit about your early life?
I was born in 1933, that year when Hitler came to power. We had a fairly comfortable life at home. My father had a very comfortable business. And in 1939, the first day World War II broke out, September 1st. That was the first time I went to school. In 1944, March 19, the Germans came in to Hungary and they occupied the whole country. And that's when the Jewish problem started. We had to start wearing yellow stars, and most of the time we have to be very careful because the Germans, they didn't have to account for any life. If they decided that they want to shoot somebody, they would shoot. They would do. They didn't have to account for anybody. Anyway, in 1944, around May, they put us into a ghetto. We stayed there until July 6. In the ghetto life, we had enough food for that. And being a Boy Scout at that time, there was a Jewish Boy Scout group, we still played the Boy Scouts in the ghetto to keep us occupied. That way. And that was the preliminary of the problems. That's when the problems started. In 1944, July 6, they put us into cattle cars. 70 in a car, just one bucket for anything that you had to do. For 3 days, there was no food, no water, just that. The moment we arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau, that's the biggest death camp that ever existed in the world. They took us out from the cattle cars, lined us up. Men who can work one side, women and children to the other side. I was already in the line for the gas chamber with my family. My mother, my sister, my grandmother, cousins, uncles, aunts, everybody in the line for the gas chamber. Came around Dr. Mengele, I don't know if you heard that name, and asked for twins. And my mother didn't know what to do and what to say. She stayed quiet. The second time, they again didn't say it. The third time said, yes, I have twins. They took us right away. I never saw my mother anymore, nobody. And that was the last time I saw all the friends.
How old were you at the time?
11. 11. Although, there's also a funny thing about it. My mother said to us, say 9, then maybe they will keep us together. She didn't know what's going to happen, but in order to keep the whole family together, say, you're 9 years old. Mengele found it very funny that we are tall and big, but we stayed for the whole 8 or 9 months that we were over there, we were 9-year-olds. And we kept it. Anyway, there came an ambulance and took us right away into the lager, the barrack. And the first thing, they gave us the number. That was a prisoner. And it was a German political prisoner who was in charge of that block. He wasn't even Jewish. Since we haven't eaten anything basically during the whole trip. And when I saw what they gave us to eat, I couldn't eat. I couldn't for 1 or 2 days, I couldn't eat. Afterwards, hunger conquers everything. And we just ate whatever they gave us. There was a twin, an older twin. Mengele decided that since he was an officer in the Czech army, he was in charge of all the kids, and because they were all young children. from 16, 17 up to 8 years old. We were twins over there. And they asked him, "And can I see my mother and my family?" And then he said, "Look up over there. You see the flames? There she is."
At such a young age, how did you cope with everything that was going on?
I was always, all my life, I was an optimist. I said, I'm going to survive. I'm going to make it. That's the only way you can do it. You think about it, you go through it, and being an optimist, you will survive. I can say, in a funny way, cats have 9 lives. I'm not a cat, but if I would have, I used up 3 already. Life was cheap. They didn't care. They didn't amount to anything. And the idea was to eliminate everybody, to kill everybody. When the Germans were losing the war in early 1944, and Stalingrad was already where the Germans got the biggest defeat, they still used trains to carry the people to the gas chambers, to the camps. It wasn't enough for them that they're losing the war, they still wanted to kill everybody. That was their mentality. Once in a while there was a soccer match with the German soldiers and some inmates.
Really?
I don't know how they do it, I think twice.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah. Otherwise, you get up early in the morning, 5 o'clock, go outside, rain, shine, cold, anything. They have to count us. Every morning, 5 o'clock, you have to line up in front of the barrack, line up and being counted. Now, I don't know why, because it didn't matter if somebody was shot already, they didn't count it, but that was the daily routine. And every morning they put out, I think, 7, 8, or 9 bodies, like Lincoln logs. They put 3 like that, 3 like that, and then came with a cart and took it away, and just threw them in the burning pit.
Wow.
I've seen enough death for the rest of my life. Because you don't need more.
That's some of the experiments.
Oh yes, Mengele did some experiments on us. The first time Mengele was wondering how come you are so big but you are only 9 years old. And then they started measuring, taking blood, giving injections. I will never find out what was out of it, what did they get out of it. It was such an experience, it doesn't make a thing, it doesn't make a sense. I think they thought that if they checked the twins, maybe they can find out some way to make more twins so the German people multiply much faster. I don't know what, this one is absolutely useless. Unfortunately, some other people, some other twins got very bad. Some of them earlier. I was one of the last ones to arrive, and only after us, only another pair came in. But the earlier experiments, sometimes they killed one of them, gave injections, so that, and then opened up and get the twin and open up and see what's the difference between them. You always said, is my number coming up or not? Is my number coming up or not? Luckily, I'm here.
You told us that the 70th anniversary of your liberation was
Yes.
last Tuesday.
That's correct.
So once you were liberated, how did you restart your life?
Okay, that's, yeah. When I saw the first Russian soldiers, I said, finally, I'm free. And we had that man who was in charge of all of us, and we asked him, please start right away, take us away from here, because if the Germans by any chance come back, we will not make it. So next day, as soon as we put together ourselves, next day we started moving. We arrived in Budapest. Man, my neighbor from down in the city where I lived, the neighbor, next door neighbor, whom he knew very well, he says, I know there are some twins in here. Let's see if these are our neighbor. And we found us. And at that time in Budapest, my grandmother's sister, who lived over there, was still alive. And they took us over there. We stayed over there a day or two until the transportation came down to my place, Page, in a hunt.
So you and your brother were together throughout this entire...
All the time, all the time, all the time. Somebody wanted took us up to the secret police in Budapest, to the place, I don't know, to give testimony. Because we were the very first who arrived, the very, very first who survived, children.
Most children were killed.
Yeah. And one of the guys gave me a thing, why don't you start as a bad guy, start hitting Iris? I just don't want to do anything like that. I wanted to be left alone.
Why did you decide that it was good for you to be able to open up and speak about what?
Talking because I'm the last one, probably some of the very last ones still arrive. I'm only 81 right now, but there are a lot of people who's just dying out naturally. And being eyewitness to everything, I'd like to talk about it and like to tell people what was happening. And really, it's not a story, it's not a imagination, it's really happened, because I was there.
How do you feel about the way that the world in general remembers and educates?
Some of them denying
about
it.
Yeah.
Some of them denying it. And the others try to forget and it just never happened. But I'm here to tell that yes, it did happen because I'm an eyewitness to all this. I'm here since 1970.
What was that?
And
You have lovely grandsons.
Thank you, I know.
Granddaughter.
All four of
and
us.
I have another one who is 20,
Oh, from
My sons.
my sons. Anyway,
That's a proof that they didn't manage to kill all the Jews, because that's the key.
You know, we say that it was horrible that he was experimented on, but that was also kind of the reason he was able to live, because otherwise he would have gone right into the crematorium.
yeah.
Um,
But that's the only thing that I'm alive.
yeah, and he's also very lucky because Mengele did his experiments. You know, he put needles into people's eyes, inject things into the most obscure places, torture twins, dwarves,
Sew two kids
sew
together.
two kids together,
That's
make
not in
Siamese.
my time, that was long before.
Yeah, so it was way before that. So because they went to Hungary later, that was also good. Mengele also liked, you know, my grandfather had a great knowledge of classical music, of soccer. He spoke German because he had a German nanny, and Mengele kind of liked him. It was also a major deal that when, you know, he returned to the camp, you know, whatever Jewish people were left went to their synagogue, and they were the first people to have, him and his brother, to have a bar mitzvah when they got back a couple years after. And that was like a major deal that, you know, Hitler tried to destroy this entire culture, this religion, and all the people, but, you know, we won. We were able to keep it alive.
We are here.